In this video, we will continue practicing graphing sine or cosine using period, midline, amplitude, and phase shift. We have done this in previous videos, so if you need more practice, go look for those. Okay, the A value is 3, all right, that's the amplitude. The B value is 2. That's going to help us find the period later. The H value would be the number that participates with the phase shift inside the parentheses, but there is no H value, so it must be 0. And similarly, there's no K value that's visible here. There's nothing being added or subtracted on the end. So the K value is also 0. All right, so the range, I say we graph it first, and it'll be more obvious. Okay, but so the period, let's talk about the period. We can calculate the period by doing 2 pi divided by b. As we said, the b is this 2, so the period is 2 pi divided by 2. That means the period is pi. So in terms of graphing, if the period is pi, then you can start off by putting pi here at the 1 period mark. And then we want to go halfway, all right, and put another mark. So this will be pi over 2, because it's half of pi. And then I want to go half of that and mark that. That's going to be pi over 4. Half of pi over 2 is pi over 4. Now this one over here, all right, in between these two, this is always 3 of these, okay? Because this is 1/4, 2/4. This will be 3/4, so 3 pi over 4. Okay, so these are the markings that we will use. Now next we look at the midline, but since there is no K value, right, which would normally go on the end here, that means the midline is not changing. The midline is y equals 0. The x-axis remains the midline. So let's move on. This is the cosine function, and we know that unless it's upside down, the cosine function starts up high. But notice the amplitude is 3. So when we go to do the cosine function, we're going to start off up here at 3. Okay? Understand that in general, the cosine function does the following pattern. If this is the midline, then the cosine, the first point, is above the midline. All right? The next one is on the midline, then it's below the midline. And then back to the midline, and then like this. So if you just look at the dots, it sort of looks like a V. All right, this is what the cosine function does. For completeness, let me go ahead and mention what the sine function does. So, so if this was the midline, the sine function goes like this. It starts on the midline, and it goes up, down, below the midline, and back. So this is what the sine function looks like. Okay, so just memorize these two patterns. Anyway, so I'm doing the cosine pattern starting out high. And then, like I said, it's going to be on the midline. And then it's going to drop below the midline by 3. Then back to the midline again. And then above the midline for the final mark. All right, let me zoom out a little. Okay. Is there anything else I need to do? No, there's no phase shift happening, okay, because there's nothing being added or subtracted here. The midline didn't change, so I think that's it. We can go ahead and actually draw this thing. Okay, so your graph should look very much like that. And so that's it for problem number 1. All right, let's do one more example on this video. Oh yeah, the range. Understanding that this function will just go up and down, up and down. So it will never get any higher than this. It will never get any lower than this. If I kept going, it would start to go down from here. Okay? So the range from bottom to top, like you do, the range goes from -3 to +3, all right, because of the amplitude. So we can put that in interval notation by just putting -3 to +3. And I'm using the brackets because the graph actually touches +3 and it reaches -3. All right, those values are on the function, so they need to be included in the range. All right, let's look at the next example. All right, problem number 2. The a value is -2, which means that the amplitude, by the way, is +2. The amplitude is always positive. Let me be clear about that. The b value is 1. Okay, there's no number here that's visible in front of the x, so the b value is 1, which means that the period is going to be unchanged. All right, the period will be the usual 2 pi. Now the h value is pi. There's no visible k value. K goes here. So the k value must be 0. All right, the fact that h is pi means that there's going to be a phase shift. Okay, and this time they were nice to us because this is a left-right, you know, a horizontal translation. But because the b value is 1, you know, because there's no visible b value, then the phase shift will be the pi. Okay, and because it's minus pi, then it's sort of the opposite of what you would think. This will be a shift to the right. If it were plus, it would be to the left. Okay, so because the k value is 0, the midline is still going to be the x-axis. So let's start graphing things. All right, this is the sine function, and you know, normally the sine function does this type of thing: midline up, midline down, midline. All right, that's the usual pattern of a sine function. However, because this has a negative in front, that is a reflection over the x-axis. So instead of doing what it normally does, like this, this time it's going to be doing this kind of a pattern. It'll go midline down, midline up, midline. All right? It's a reflection, so it'll be upside down. So instead of starting and going up, this time we're going to start at the midline and go down. So just be ready for that. Okay? So we will start at the midline. Now this is my skeleton. I'm going to save the phase shift for last. So don't connect any dots. You know what? I haven't labeled the axes yet, so let me do that first. The period is 2 pi, so we can just come on over here and put 2 pi. Okay, and that means in the middle we're going to have just pi. And halfway right here we will have pi over 2. And in the middle of these two we have 3 pi over 2. Now because my amplitude is 2, that means I'm going to be moving 2 away from the midline. So as I said before, because of the reflection, instead of going up like I normally do, I'm going to go down. But the amplitude tells me to go 2 down, then back to the midline, and 2 up, and back to the midline. So this would be 1 period of this function. So actually, let's not connect the dots yet, because we have not done the phase shift. All right? We have a phase shift of pi to the right. Okay? Notice that pi is 4 squares worth. So I'm going to take my first square, and I'm going to shift it pi to the right. So this first point is going to end up right here. Okay? Now, I can find the rest of the points by following the pattern that I did the first time. Down, back, up, back. So here I go. Down, back, up, back. So there you go. So this will be the final answer. So we can go ahead and actually connect these points. All right, so that is what your graph should look like for number 2. They asked us for the range. All right, from bottom to top, this is -2 to +2. So that would be the range. All right, that's it for problem number 2. And I think that's long enough for one video. So I'm going to stop this video here. I still have 2 more examples coming on the next video.